All right. Well, we'll let folks catch us when they come in. So, thank you for showing up. Today, we are going to talk about techniques for reviewing past work. And our topic or our theme is 2019. So the past work, since we don't all share the same projects, our past work is going to cover our lives over the past year. Welcome, Tricia. And to get started, I think we could go around and say hi. And for the introduction, I'm going to go ahead and close this door. For the introduction, if you could just share your name, where you're calling in from today, and then your one word or phrase summary for 2019, we'll get to say hi to everybody. Would anybody like to start?
Well, this is Karen, and I'm happy to say I'm Karen Ginsberg. I am right outside Washington, D.C., and I will say for 2019, progress, comma, finally.
Awesome. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Well, I'm John from Portland, Oregon. I'll also not actually working outside. I say my summary phrase for 2019 is transitional, which I take to mean I sure hope 2020 realizes some of the fruits of what we put forth in 2019.
Yeah. I'll go next. Tricia Harris from I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. How are you, Karen? Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Yes, indeed.
And I would say frenzied yet learned more focus. Practiced and learned more focus, and which is hopefully, like you said, John, will carry into next year's and have benefits then.
All right, Amy.
Okay, I'm Amy Farrell. I am joining from Portland, Oregon, and I think my summary is maturing the product offering.
All right. And I'm Elise, also in Portland, and my summary for 2019 is blurry.
Blurry, transitional.
Like, I have no idea, really. It's been mayhem. So with that grounding in place, let's talk about techniques for getting more detailed and more in depth with a review of past work. And to begin with, I think I'm just going to share a quick presentation. We're going to go over what action reviews are, which is the meeting where these kinds of techniques often come into play. And this is really super short, so we won't be looking at my presentation long. And if you have questions as I'm going through it, just definitely stop and ask me, no problems. Okay? Everybody see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great. So today, again, techniques for reviewing past work. And those kinds of techniques most commonly come up in the meeting type that we call the action review, and specifically in after action reviews. So what is an after action review? Well, it's often referred to as an AAR because people are cool with acronyms that way. And it's a meeting that teams use to review and learn from a recent experience. The results, so what do you get from action reviews? You get shared insights. So the thing that Tricia learned and the thing that Karen learned and the thing that Amy learned are all triangulated, and we're like, aha, there's the nugget. ideas for improvement, and then commitment to actually make change. It's very much a core practice in anybody who's doing continuous improvement. A new one I learned recently, I was talking to an ex-SEAL. They talk about how after action reviews are critical in team reconstitution, which is this idea that after you've gone through something together, whether it be the blurry 2019 of building and learning or trial by fire, you've unraveled a bit. And this is an opportunity to look back and create a shared experience from that and then come back together as a team. So reconstitution. Lots of different names for these meetings. The first responder and military teams call them AARs. Medical teams will call them reviews, postmortems, debriefs. Software teams talk about retrospectives or retros. Designers will do critiques. You have going over the notes. That's what we called it in my theater days. Charrettes in architecture. Strategic review in leadership teams, and the kinds of things we're doing today where we're looking at the performance for an entire year or what you might be doing in something like a strategic review. So an action review works by basically helping the group think together about a project in the same way at the same time. And it starts by reviewing what the plan was, reviewing what actually happened. So like not what you thought happened or what you guessed, but what really happened. And then you can share insights and observations about your feelings, your thoughts, your beliefs about what happened. Suggest ways to make improvements. And then you agree ideally on one or two very small experiments. So one of the keys to success in an action review is to do them frequently enough that you can pick something small and actionable to change going forward and continuously make 1 to 3% change for the better in your process, but you're doing it often enough that over time you're getting many, many, many compounded percents better in how you work. And all of that's working on, so there's this model by Chris Argus who talks about the ladder of inference.
I'll let you know when you're back on.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Hear you.
I hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're good.
All right. So did we talk about, did you hear me talk about the brain yet?
Nope. We heard ladder of inference.
Okay. Big brains. So we have these big brains, and there's this sea of data coming in at all of us. And all of us are looking at what's happening in our worlds from a different perspective. And we only can observe some of what's happening, right? So out of the giant pool of observable reality, there's only a little bit that we actually notice. And we each notice something a little bit different. And based on what we've noticed, we select things to pick out as being important. We ascribe meaning to those, make some assumptions, draw some conclusions, and from there's where our beliefs about what matters, our beliefs about what takes and what's going to happen get formed, and we use those to create action. So the action review process is about breaking these things down so we can be a little bit more aware that that's what's happening. So in the brain, we're doing this in split seconds. You know, aha, here the phone's ringing. That must be the school saying my teenage son is missing a class again. Like that belief leap was super fast. Didn't even need any evidence. But when we break that down and look at it in stepwise, then we can make better decisions about our actions. So, I thought I had that's the wrong button. Let's go this direction. So a recap. Okay. So essentially AARs are broken into 3 main phases. The first is what. So you ask the group what happened observably. Then so what. So what do we believe about it? What are our conclusions? What are our feelings? And then finally, now what? What are we going to do? Today, for our practice session, because we don't have a lot of shared projects that we can all work on, we're just going to look at this bottom part, the what and a little bit of the so what. And to do that, we're going to run through 3 different techniques, very, very simple techniques, but kind of fun. Karen, one of these you're just going to love. It's going to be right up your alley. The first of which is dealing with how do you get at this what. So in our case, and in every case, the what part of it, you want to start by looking at what happened as if you were recording it like a camera. These things happened factually. The camera would notice it, so did you. So we have, 2019, which factually happened. It was a timeline of months in which events occurred. And that's how we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down using an exercise called peaks and valleys. So this is how it works. So I'm going to walk you through how this exercise works. And then we're going to take 4 minutes in silence to let everybody work through it on their own. Now, if you haven't got one already, you need a blank piece of paper and a pen. And if you've got a pen that's like a fat old marker, that would be awesome. So with your blank piece of paper, I would suggest folding it in half just so you kind of have a sense of what's going on, and then unfolding it. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a big old line down the middle. We're in this session, we're going to make our own personal peaks and valleys. And then when we work in teams, you'll have the facilitator would do this. They would draw a big line like that. And then with your line, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at it, and on the left-hand side of your line, that's January 1. And the far end of your paper, that's December 31. And this is a timeline, all the months, all the way across. So the first question is what? And you can go through that timeline and just put little markers for things that you felt were significant events. So for us, we launched Meeting School in April. That's about yay-ish. And, I went to the Meeting Moonshot in October, which is about here. So just put little marks for the different key events. And when you're doing this in a team, part of the what is you work through these markers, and then you ask anybody, what other events should we have for this project we're looking at? And they may add another couple markers. So you get a shared sense of the what happened in what order. And then individually, and you will do this for yourself, and then if you do this as teams, you go, okay, well, how do I feel about this? For me, in this timeline, which of these things were highs and which of these things were lows? And everything above the line is what we call a peak or a cliff. These were highs, and you'll put it like an X there. And things below the line, that was a bummer. The X goes there. And then you take and you connect the dots. And you get a line that looks maybe something like this. And that's your peaks and valleys review of not only what happened, but your feelings and beliefs about how that thing went. And then if you're doing it with teams, the next person will come in. And one of the great things about this exercise is you each get to tell the story of your experience and see how they line up or they don't. Any questions about how this works?
I don't think so. Maybe after.
All right, John, I saw your mouth move, but you're muted. So,
Just saying that it'll be hard on the fly to pull out 12 months worth of peaks and valleys, but we'll give it a shot.
Do your best, and that was why today's prep was to look at your calendar.
Which I happen to have in front of me.
Isn't that great? And that's the other reason why we're going to take 4 minutes and work on that right now. So I'm going to be here, and if you have questions, great. But otherwise, the next 4 minutes are all yours. Go ahead and make your peaks and valleys. Okay. So go ahead and you can continue to finish those up while we talk about what we're going to do with them. So the peaks and valleys in this case are tools that we're going to use to help us as we go through the next exercise. So ideally, you've got a sense of what your year looked like, kind of reconnected a bit with what happened and how you felt about it. And now we're going to work together to pull out any sort of shared insights about things that really worked well that we can then carry with us into 2020. And we're going to do this using a technique called appreciative interviews. Is anybody familiar with appreciative interviews, something you've experienced before?
I know appreciative inquiry, but not appreciative interviews. I assume it's related.
They're very similar, right? So an appreciative interview is a way to take the concept of appreciative inquiry, where we're asking and seeking for positive things to build on to go forward. And it works like this. It's very, very simple. When we start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some breakout groups, and they're going to be, you're going to be paired off. So 2 breakout rooms with 2 participants each. And what you'll do when you get into your group is you'll decide who's going to go first. And the person who goes first will be answering the question. And I've got it here and I'll put it in the chat too. Please tell a story about a time in the past year when you worked on a challenge with others and you are proud of what you accomplished. So you want to tell a story about a time where you did some good teamwork and you're proud of what you accomplished. You can use your peaks and valleys timelines to help you. You can share those with each other if you want. You don't have to. That's for you. So that's personal, and you can keep it private if you want. You can share it if you want. It's up to you. But the key thing to do is to say, what is this story? And what in that story, what made success possible? Okay, so the one person is going to be telling a story. The other person, you're the interviewer. So go ahead and ask questions about parts that you don't understand in their story. What happened?
A huge thunder boom just hit, and I did not even know it was raining outside. And it scared the life out of me. Didn't expect thunder in the winter.
Awesome. So you're going to tell so one person interviews the other, the person who's being interviewed, please share your story and what you think made success possible. And then halfway through, we're going to go ahead and switch partners. So you'll each have about 8 minutes. Watch, and I'll send a little thing that says, "Hey, it's about time to switch," and then we'll come back out and share what we learned. Any questions about how this works?
Where the
All right.
questions are in the chat, you said, or
there? I just put it in the chat, and it's also in the Lucid meeting.
Oh, yeah, I can go there.
And okay, on your mark, get set,
Oh.
breakout, go.
While I was talking to Karen, so that was
There we
not
go.
Welcome,
Hi,
welcome
Karen.
back.
I accidentally clicked the button while I was
That's
talking.
okay.
because it was
That's
sitting
okay.
in
I
front
figured
of
it
me
was
and-
something like that. We were at a good place. I was about to tell you that we seemed like in a good place. And we
I
were being
think
called
so,
back.
yes.
And I'm sure the other group will rejoin us in just a second
Momentarily, indeed.
because they'll have to. Their rooms are going to auto close on them. Oh, ben voila. Hello, welcome back.
Oh, we're just having such an interesting conversation about the implications of all this good work.
That
And the good
is
help.
that is the goal, right? Okay. So now before we're going to take some time at the end to go through and look at every one of these techniques and just sort of reflect on the technique itself and what we thought about it. But while those stories are hot in your minds, the next step in appreciative interviews is where each of you who conducted an interview then reports on the story that you heard, right? So what was it that made success possible? And we're going to do this in a way that lets us play with some more technology. So we have a Storms board set up And I'm going to put the link to it in Slack, or not Slack, Zoom in the chat here. And if you open that up, it's just a simple web app where once you go in, you'll click 2019 in review. There's a single box there.
It wants me to log in. I should sign in first.
You do have to identify yourself. Yeah. And those who do, when you get in, you'll have the opportunity to add cards.
Okay, so two things. It says I haven't given a workshop's code. Was that back in the chat and I just missed it?
It is. There's a code there.
Okay, hang on. That's it. Once I got two windows open, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, it is one of those things, isn't it?
There it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make sure that this actually works so that people can add cards. Great. Should work. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take turns telling the stories of that we've heard, and basically what we're looking to do is to headline it, right? So when you headline something, you basically take the story and you act as if you're an honest to goodness reporter. Mm-hmm. Say, okay, here's the headline, and here are the key points. And then those of us who are listening, you can either, as you're listening, add a card that say, okay, that's the headline that I heard, and then we'll capture these headlines in the cards, and then see what we get, see what is created on the cloud. So it looks like I've got 5 people in there. Can you guys go ahead and hit refresh real quick on the Storms thing, and you should have a big box that says add a card in front of you. Mm-hmm. Do you have that? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Does what we're about to do make sense? Are there questions that you have about?
So we had a headline by adding a card.
Yeah. So go ahead and tell your headline. Go ahead and tell your headline of Trisha's story, and we'll go ahead and add the headline for you. Okay? Like as you hear it, we'll add the.
Verbalizes it. Okay.
What?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Did you actually want me to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, Trisha's story was about how she worked with Elise to create and close the Valdez Quick Start sale this year, and how that sale program had sort of gone through ups and downs and had a bunch of challenges in terms of the customer clarity and people being present, and some resistance from that team. But in the end, it became something that due to work coming out of the Colorado Conservation Colorado work, sharpening our messaging, plus timing, plus the ability to have the testimonials in place from various people, that it became a very quick sale at the end. The process got simple.
Excellent. So I heard several things in there that were things that made success possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I caught sharpening our messaging. What are some other ones that could you go back and repeat those?
Yeah, no, I'm a write only person. Okay, so yeah, no, so sharpening the message. One of it was having completed the quick start previously. We understood the value proposition. That sharpened the message. There was timing around the end of year. Just the fact that we sort of have the BANT approach, the authority, the budget authority, need, and timing. The need became easier to talk about. The authority for the city manager became the city harbor minister became easier to understand after they had gone through a transition. So when we first met them, they were just getting ready to go through a transition, and some people were going to leave that government agency or thing, and they were going to go, and they did that transition. So I think what Trisha talked about most was that having worked with Elise, she felt that she got much clearer on how to talk to the customer about it.
Cool.
So sharpening the message was number 1. Timing was number 2. And I think I think the third one, maybe we learned how to help the customer through some of their internal resistance.
Nice. So I caught several cards on that one. Did anybody else catch something that I missed?
Hard not to speak.
Well, do you want to go next? Do you want to speak by sharing John's story?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So what's the headline and what made success possible?
The headline is we have dramatically transformed our offering for enterprise customers
Okay.
over the last year.
And what made success possible? And anybody else who wants to capture a card, please do.
A lot of teamwork. John, Amy, he and I work together. I know, Elise pulling together pilot information. Not only internal teamwork, but also teamwork with the customer team that we've been working with. I would say, and Joan might disagree with this, but the fact that the customer pushed us so fast and so hard to get some of these things done made some success possible. Because now we're in a place where maybe we wouldn't be if they hadn't pushed us.
Interesting.
And there are a lot of things that were valleys throughout this experience. Many valleys, not feeling like we were going to deliver what we needed to deliver, and there's a long list of those. But what I'll say is that right now we're currently at a peak.
All right, excellent. So what did we catch from that? I see teamwork, and deadlines, and pushing.
Deadlines is a good one.
All of that. Those are excellent takeaways. Were there other keys to success, that the other elements of things that enabled that success that you heard in that story?
All of the dedication from Amy. I heard that loud and clear, because she has been supporting that technically in so many different ways.
Excellent.
Yeah, I hadn't picked up on it, Tricia. The value of the forcing function of deadlines to actually bust loose the resistance to doing some things. But that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Even I was one who's saying it. I didn't get
like
that thought out.
Maybe kicking and screaming, but now we're here.
Sweet.
Not too much, but it was all work we wanted to do. It was just a matter of maybe not that quick.
All right, Karen, Amy, would one of you like to go next?
Sure. I'd like to tell Amy's story because I think it's a nice follow-on with some similar themes. And we talked about the success that Amy and your team securing the pilot with this very large and exciting new client, and also taking lessons learned from that process and using them to enhance services to other clients as well. And we talked about 5 different areas of success. The first was that this was a priority, that this was made a priority, and some other things were allowed to go back burner so that you could do both the intensity and the turnaround times that were required for the client and the project demands. The second was patience, not necessarily taking the first answer to the client's many questions about tech capabilities, but starting to think about what you had and, should you make some adjustments, not because you were trying to just get the right answer to get the work, all that was part of it, but also, open-minded to think about what you were doing and best approaches for all your clients. So that came from patience. Right. Another piece, we were just talking about deadlines. I'm also echoing deadlines and accountability, that when Amy had pieces that were going to somebody else, she, that gave her the incentive to make sure it got done. And that she also appreciated the feedback, knowing somebody else would look at it and provide feedback and input on it. And this piece probably belonged in the middle, but I just had it at the end, was just the people. The fact that you have a great team and the three of you, the three on this were able to collaborate and sit down together and really hash things out. Those were the 5 success factors.
Awesome. All right. I think I heard a lot of the typing, so I'm guessing we caught those. Excellent. Amy, are you ready to share Karen's story?
I think so. So Karen's example was pro bono consulting she did for the Physicians Committee, and it's an organization she's working on an issue she cares about. So there was a phrase she used that I think it actually probably covers 3 headlines, but it was wanted it, did it, kept after it.
Nice.
So she said the internal champion was a great help, was very positive. And came out, she was able to be her own champion and limit the scope of what was being asked to what she could actually do. Because this organization has a lot of resources and capability, which is a success factor, but also a balance challenge. This particular project tapped into Karen's expertise and was an issue she cares about. So there's motivation there. And Excellent. She said the people are great.
That always makes teamwork so much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it makes you happier about delivering for them.
All right. That's excellent. So I'm hearing a lot of great success factors. I'm hearing things that overlap, and I'm hearing things that don't overlap. We've shared the stories that we have. If you want to take a second and just kind of scan through those cards real quick and see if there's something that you think we missed, feel free to go ahead and add them. And you just do that by scrolling down. I'm going to do a quick time check here. We've got about 10 minutes left. Would you guys be all right if we went 5 minutes longer to give ourselves some time to wrap?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure.
Excellent. Okay, so with this done, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment. We're going to take a look at it, and then we'll just talk about what we've seen and what we've done and how we might take these techniques and use them in a place where we weren't quite so on it, okay? So in terms of what this gave us as a place for starting other work or reflection work, we can go ahead and move here and behold the insight cloud. So basically we've got all of this data out there. And one thing we can do is just look at it and say, okay, is something popping up? Right? Apparently Amy is at the center of success.
Yes.
Yay! And if you want to have successful work, you need to do some working.
And having customers makes such a difference.
Yeah, it's true.
Doesn't it?
Teamwork,
or clients.
People.
Some people. Right. But as you can see, there are some things in here that are kind of jumping out as you scan around it. What do you guys pull?
The word champions is jumping out at me because it's not as common a word as some of the others that came out in its prominence.
Yeah, I think also the accountability and deadlines and priority, kind of all that sort of that kind of angle popped into my head here.
Elise, your cloud is different than mine. Is that interesting?
Huh.
Oh yeah, you go. I'll go see if your clouds are different. What does your cloud have in the middle?
It has customers, but it is green and at an angle, and accountability is at the bottom. I kept looking at it and I was like, why is yours at the top?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the cloud, the weighting is should be the same, but
Yeah, it is. It's cool though how it happens that way.
anything jump out to you in this one, Karen?
No, I think the discussion was about where I thought what I heard. What would be interesting for me from a process standpoint was I actually took a minute and was sort of half looking at this, but half jotting down what were my 5 success factors, because Amy and I had talked about them, but I'd written down hers and not bothered to write down my own, and I love them. I thought as a real guidepost of how do I take forward additional projects and assignments. I absolutely love my 5. What I would be inclined to do is to take my 5 and go back and look at this and say, based on what we came out with collectively, are there other things I didn't catch in my own story that would be worth building on, or are some of these more specific to the way different people's styles or preferences?
Yeah, that would be great. So one of the things, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this, and then at the end, I'll export this report and it'll be part of the community success. Yep. So we can all get in there and look at it later and have fun with it. So in terms of backing up and just sort of looking at what we've done so far, the peaks and valleys technique, so first of all, if you haven't already, that's one that you can actually do online because you can share it like this. So did you all have a chance to look at each other's peaks and valleys? Yeah. Awesome.
And draw the line.
Oh, look at how detailed Amy's is.
Well, I had to put
Awesome.
I had to put months in there so I could figure out where to put things, because
yeah,
that's cool.
That's awesome. Yep.
Hey,
awesome.
look at that.
That's fun.
Karen, that's great.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so that particular technique, what was your experience of that technique, and was there things that you saw that it made possible?
So first, I think there's so much going on. I found myself wanting to pick a vector for it of events in one lane, because we have so many lanes going on. We have personal lanes, we have professional lanes, we've got company lanes, we've got different aspects of our company, we have different customer relationships, we have financial lanes. Like I had to do them all would have created a crazy picture. It probably flowed backwards. So one of it was I just decided to focus in on one particular aspect of the year and look at that one as by itself in isolation. So that was one thing I did. Which I think was helpful.
And I think that's probably a good tip for using that technique in general, is getting very clear about your time frame and your focus.
Mm-hmm.
Would make it a lot easier. Mm-hmm.
So I really loved it. As I said, I thought the takeaways of the factors for me were personally very helpful and meaningful, and greatly exceeded what I expected from the call today. So I was like, wow, big bonus. But I'm also thinking at the same time I'm also thinking, how could my clients use this tool? Right. And the ASPCA has a very strong learning culture. And in fact, the head of about half that organization comes out of appreciative inquiry and whatever. So I know she would eat this up. And so I was also trying to think about, we talked about some of the common things, what were the themes and the threads. what I would be looking for thinking was, how do we push that to the next level to make it actionable for people that they get from the, oh, well, here's some things we identified as common themes to, okay, so here's what we're going to do about it. And I'm guessing that maybe that's because today we were in the what and the so what, and the now what would be another piece of the process to take the point we got to today and say, all right, now what do I want to do from what I learned?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we got to what, and we got to half of so what.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't even really finish up so what.
So what? Okay.
Yeah, because there's a bunch more you might want to do in that. So on the peaks and valleys specifically, the reason that I chose that one today is that first of all, it involves multiple parts of the brain, right? You're dealing with spatial, sort of that moment where you sit down and you detach from the computers and you write and you draw. Helps people connect in with their own thoughts and their own impressions in a way that doesn't happen as well when we're just throwing ideas back and forth. And also sometimes having pictures gives people a way to connect with beliefs and emotions and things in that teams are not as comfortable necessarily talking about. You're in space. So that technique is a great one for being very clear, because the timeline is the camera eyes view. These things literally happened in this order. And it helps people get very clear about being very objective, and then gives that opportunity to be emotional about it in a way that's very safe, and allows them to explore differences. Like for John, it was all valleys. For me, it was sort of like a whatever. We had very different emotional responses to the year, and we can now talk about that with little lines and valleys instead. Other thoughts about that particular exercise?
I attempted to address it on a work vector, but covering, all the things we work on. And that's kind of hard because I would have a peak and a valley at the same time, right?
Yeah, I actually had that as well, right?
So I have done this before with a team as part of like this team's, past, I don't know, couple of months of work, which I think is actually a better timeline. You definitely get more out of it when the whole team is focused on the same project, and then you see where something that went really well for, maybe like the development team was really happy, and then shortly afterwards the support team was not, or or
sales team is happy, then the customer care team.
Your peak is my valley.
or perhaps just you felt really bad about how something had gone, and then somebody else actually took away a positive from it. So
Right.
Awesome. Very cool. Appreciative interviews. How was that experience? What did that make possible, and where might you use that?
I thought it was cool. I enjoyed hearing a perspective that I kind of knew, but sort of it was more elaborated from someone else's point of view, because I was part of the project, yet I'm hearing it from someone else and then having to repeat it, I think is very useful, because it requires listening, it requires understanding what happened, and I liked that part of it. It's being able to hear it from another perspective, then repeat it to other people. I think it would be kind of cool to use this in your personal life, whether with friends, family, spouse, that kind of thing, to just say, what, reflect on the year. What did you enjoy? What did you work on? What do you hope for next year? But to hear it and then have somebody hear their perspective and then repeat it back to them.
That's interesting. That'd be cool.
I found it very, very interesting being interviewed by someone who wasn't familiar with my work, and kind of astounded that Karen quickly got 5 key points out of what I said that seemed to actually be accurate to what I had meant to say. But the interview brought up, I think, things that maybe I had not put as much emphasis on, that were actually meaningful. So.
Excellent. Other reflections?
Amy, by the way, that is my competitive advantage. If you can ever figure out how to articulate that, I am reworking on my web copy now. So that's people have said that about me for years. It's all over the place. Not that you were all over the place. Your stuff was a good narrative, and it's this, and this. That's what it is.
Awesome. So appreciative interviews are a technique that is especially convenient and applicable when you're working with a team that's in a dark spot. They're looking to do culture change. They're looking to be, now we need to be innovative. Now we need to be X. Now we need to be Y. And what this does is it helps them find out from themselves that they already can do it, because they have in fact succeeded already. They all have experiences of success somewhere, maybe not with that team, maybe with a different team, maybe, in a different job, maybe on a past project, but they've got them. They've got that stuff in there, and they've got things they can use and work with. So appreciative interviews is not necessarily a traditional retrospective technique. It's oftentimes you'd use something instead, like what worked, what didn't work. You pull out multiple perspectives that way. And then where you would take this next for an action review would be to something like eco-cycle planning, or even just simple action planning. So of all of these things, which of these is most important to us? And we're going to prioritize those and make them our next plan. Did you guys all freeze, or is that me?
It's you.
But we could hear you. You were just still.
All right.
Your camera is all breaking down. You're almost getting pixelated.
Does it make my eyes look big?
Yes, they're like saucers.
All right. So with that, why don't we take just our last couple seconds to share any appreciations, and then a one-word close, and then we'll close this up and post the recording. And Karen, if you've got a picture to share in your close, that would be awesome.
Oh, cool. Okay. So here's, I don't know how easy it is to see on the.
Nice.
There it is. And I'll do a few more edits, and I'll post it to the community.
Yay!
And
Wonderful.
My appreciation was, this was absolutely terrific on many levels. And thank you for everybody. And so my one-word close is terrific.
Nice.
I'd like to share appreciation just to all my team members, because of all the hard work everybody's put in. It's made my life so much easier as far as, working with a big client and having deliverables done. I think it's gone, ups and downs, but overall very good. And I want to thank Karen for coming. I think that's great that you are here and creating your visual notes. And one word would be, I've learned something new techniques.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I steal Trish's word? I also have learned.
Darn it.
And
That was my word. Should have gone first.
If we had a word cloud, it would be
Learned.
And this actually was another example of a technique that I was uncertain that this was going to be useful outside of the context of a team I was working with. You know what I mean? To just bring it into a community of practice and be discussing something with someone that didn't actually have shared experience with it. And it was useful. So that was the fascinating learning there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Once again, I'm reminded that of a couple things. One, just in general, it's, we work on a torrid pace, and it's not a bad idea to slow down and take a look at things once in a while. And probably doing it annually is probably a little bit too infrequent. Per Amy's comments earlier about a shorter time horizons being valuable, and definitely learned a lot. And one of the things I keep relearning all the time is that it's a valid thing to embrace and learn new techniques, even when you're an old guy. These techniques work. Sometimes just you do the technique, do the process, and things will come out of it that you didn't expect.
And I want to express incredible appreciation to all of you for being game to play and do these things that you don't have to do and then staying after. So I apologize for keeping you a little late, but I really appreciate all of your time and your enthusiasm. These are so useful for me because I get to, figure out how Zoom freaking breakout rooms work.
Well, there is that.
How do I send this link out so people even know how to join? What is even going on? So incredibly intense amount of learning on my part. And I am so, so grateful for all of you for helping with that. Thank you so much for experimenting with me. And with that, I hope, Karen, we're looking super forward to seeing your drawing. That's so fun.
Yeah, should be up shortly. I just make a few edits. The goal is it's supposed to be done when the meeting is done.
Good. And you got an extra 11 minutes.
Yeah,
all right. And then the recording will go up soon too. So with that, everybody have a great rest of your afternoon and week and everything. And we will see you next time, maybe.
Hey, bye everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.